Hi everyone, my name's Anne Marie. Welcome to card making tutorial 612 using our Anna Griffin supplies. Now I've got to say, as card tutorials go, this one is going to create a masterpiece and I think you're really going to like this. We're going back to proper paper crafting and paper folding for this. However, it's not too difficult. I want to run through the items that we're going to use, the dies, the stamps, etc. And then everything I do use I shall list on my blog anyway with extra photos, so please check the blog out. The first thing that I'm going to use is the Anna Griffin Paper Tricks 2. Now I'm going to be using the embossing folder that's called Paper Tricks Chevron and Fan Fold. And I'm going to be using the half circle die that's included in the collection. If you don't have Paper Tricks 2, you could actually make mini rosettes. Now I know a lot of you have got the rosette dies that Anna created. They haven't been in the UK. Paper Tricks 2 has been in the UK and the US, but we haven't had the rosette dies. However, I know there's other makes out there that you could make your rosettes with. But we're going to use the Paper Tricks 2 from Anna. We're also going to be using the Anna Griffin Sentiment dies and stamps, but we're actually only using the stamps. And this is just for the insert. So if you don't have these, don't get, too hung up about, oh, I haven't got that one. Use something else that you might have in your stash. There's lots of stamps for sentiments that were in the Treasury collection from Anna. They would work easily as well. We're using one that says, wishing you a very happy birthday. I'll just check we are using that one. Yes, we are. Mine are very well loved, so don't look at the state of mine because we've used mine so many times. And then lastly, we're going to use the Ornate Easel card die set, but we're actually only using the ornate part and the shadow layer. We're not using the actual easel base and fold section. So it's just the ornate one and the shadow layer. So for our card, we actually are going to need to make these little mini fans. So they're kind of like, not a circle. So this is why I'm saying you could use the rosette dies. I want to show you how to make these first, and then we can put the card together. So Paper Tricks 2, you will die cut a piece of paper or cardstock. Now I'm using paper and I'm using it from the vintage French collection from Anna from many moons ago. You could use any that you have already in your stash. But I've used paper because paper I can fold and manipulate a little bit easier. So I've run it through the die cutting machine, through my Empress, to die cut at the half circle. And then I've put the half circle through the embossing folder to get the parallel lines embossed into it. So then what happens is, now I'm going to be doing mine in the air so that you can see. Normally you'd be here, but I want you to see what happens. So we're going to fold mountain valley style folding, so backwards, forwards, through the actual embossed lines, and we're going to just do that the whole way for the half circle. And once it's done, we're then going to pinch it at one end, and we can see where the shape is starting to come from. Now, the first trick that I do, when I've pinched it to one end, I take a piece of red tape, just a small piece, maybe just over 1 centimetre, and try and cut it normally. There we go. I take the red tape, and where I've pinched the end together, I put the red tape just around one side. Keep it pinched, and then it should form the shape of, well, it's like a scallop. It's a half fan, but it's like a scallop. We've done these before. Now, that will hold its shape and give you enough time to add it to your project. But if you want to add just a little bit of reinforcement to it, what I do is with wet glue, I just cut a piece of scrap and add it to the back to secure it, let it dry, and then I can add tape over the top. Depends how you want to stick it together. So, but the tape at the end will hold the shape, but then to reinforce it, to stick it down onto a project, I just use a little bit of wet glue, add a scrap of paper and let that dry. I actually sit them down on my desk on a piece of wax paper, put them all down, and then I put something heavy over the top of them while they dry. So that's what I do. So that's how we make the fans for the card. So the card itself, as we put it together, as you'll see, oh, look at that. As we put it together, is quite easy. So I'm using a 7x7 inch card. I've already stamped it on the back with my handmade by stamp and added my name so the person who's getting it knows who's made it for them. I'm using my bone folder to make sure that score is nice and sharp on the edge of the card. And I'm going to start with the inside. Now, I know you're looking at that and you're thinking, oh my word, what a mess. I wanted to do it not precise because I know there's some of you that, you know, you're not advanced inkers and blenders. So I just thought I'm going to get colour on the base of the card. And I've just literally put green and pink ink on the card. And if my memory serves me correctly, it's going to be peel paint and festive berries from Distress Inks. So you could use any of Anna's inks, you could use whatever inks that you have. So I've just made kind of like an oval. And on top of that oval, to where I've positioned the colours, is I've actually just kind of looked at where my die cut's going to go and then added colour underneath it. So it's kind of like by eye. Now the first thing for our insert, I've got an offcut that I've trimmed down, and it's an offcut from where I've die cut the ornate easel for the front of the card from the Anna Griffin foil layers. So I've kept the outside, what's normally the waist. I've put tape on each of the corners and I've made it so it will fit inside for our insert. And I am simply going to position it inside the card, like so. There we go. Because it's such beautiful cardstock, I didn't want to waste it. And I think this card, with it being a bit of a masterpiece, it's just going to work really well. So there we've added the outside. So now the inking is starting to look like we've made a shadow. But now, where we've die cut using the ornate section of the easel card, I've die cut it in ivory cardstock and I've used the stamp from the Sentiments and Stamps range, wishing you a very happy birthday. I've got tape on the back, and now you'll see where I've inked, it will all come together. So I can add my die cut to the actual insert that we've cut. So it's kind of like an aperture. And just get it nicely lined up and press it down. There we go. So where I've inked now doesn't look as though I've made such a mess, because it hides all that, well, dabbing, and if you haven't blended it right, or you've just gone direct to paper. So that is our insert. So there's enough room for us to write a nice message on there. And now I can turn our attention to the front of the card. So I'm just using my bone folder again to make sure it's nice and sharp in that crease. So the first layer is from the Anna Griffin Foil Layers 2 collection. And 2 holes in the centre where I've die cut to save and be frugal. We're going to use one of the layers later in this card, and the other one I can put to one side and use for something else. So we've got tape on the back, and we can position this on the front of our card. So don't be scared to be frugal with your cardstock on your base layers, because if you're building up on top of it, you will never notice. So this is going to sit across the front of my card from edge to edge, like so. Nice and straight for a change. Our next layer is actually going to be our little fans. So I've made 4 of them, and I'm going to position them to the corners. Now we can either add them straight away, hoping that we're going to get them in the right place, or I can put the next layer on and then slot them underneath. Now I'm hoping I'm going to roughly get them in the right place. Big tip, if you want a little bit of slidability, even if you're using tape, add a little bit of wet glue and you will be able to slide them about to get them in position. So we're not doing that today. Do as I say, not as I do, unfortunately. So we've just got tape on the back, and I'm just going to hope for the best. So I'm positioning them kind of like in the corners, where I think the die might just show them. I'm not pressing them down too much in case I need a little bit of wiggle on them. So we've just put 4 in the corners. So our next layer is actually the shadow layer, and I've used the damask cardstock for this. I've got 3D foam on the back, and it's going to cover the apertures that I've cut out of the labels that I'm going to use for something else. So now I can press this layer down, because this is going to be in the right place, and I'm going to wiggle this one at this side. I'm going to wiggle this one at this side, and I think those 2 are okay at the bottom. So now I can press them down, and you can see already that looks really pretty. Next layer is the foil layer. I showed you how we kept the waste from this die cut for the inside. 3D foam on the back, and I'm going to just add that over the top of the shadow layer and then press it down. So there we go. Next, now we're going to use our fans again for this layer, and I'm thinking that again I'm just going to lay them onto the cardstock. I don't want to press them down, because again I might need that wiggle room. So kind of going symmetrical with them and just popping them on, because when I put the next layer on I can make sure that they're all in the right place. There we go. Now the next layer is from the base layer that I die cut, and I die cut using one of the label dies from the actual easel card kit. So I'm going to just add this over the top and I'm thinking that the fans that we've just added might roughly be in the right place. So fingers crossed, and then I can press everything down. There we go. Make sure they're nicely stuck. Next, I've just taken a piece of the actual French collection paper again and die cut it from the label die in the easel card kit. I'm just going to pop that through the centre of the previous layer, like so. And then I've got a sentiment. Now the sentiment is actually from the birthday collage toppers. And what I've done is I've cut the sentiment away from the actual collage topper. So I've just got the sentiment. I've got 3D foam on the back, and I'm just going to pop that through the centre of our previous layers. And then to finish the card, I'm going to add a large green bow just underneath the sentiment and press that down. There we go. And that is our card finished. Now, I think, obviously, if I hadn't have had to show you how to make the little paper fans, it's quite a quick card. But look how spectacular it is. The inside matches perfectly. Love the colouring of the ink and the way that it all just comes together. The green and the... Now I'm going to call it peacock. It's like a teal, a peacock colour. It just works. You can see the layers, and those fans just... Oh, they just finish it so well. And they make it look so gorgeous. And it is. Stands up nicely. I always forget that bit. Stands up nicely. Might need one of your big fat mailers. Depends how high your layers are for your 3D foam. But maybe, yeah, maybe a little bit of extra packing in there and a larger envelope. I just go size up for my envelope sometimes, or use an 8x8 if I haven't got one that's big enough for a 7x5. So it's just a beautiful card. Please check my blog because there's lots more photos on there and the information about the items used. Now, I just want to touch on this. The items that I use aren't always in stock because they're normally older items. So they're items that you've normally got in your stash. Sometimes I can put a link on there if they're still current, but more often than not, they've maybe sold out already. And it's normally items that I use that have been in the UK, so they've probably all been on HSN anyway. But check the blog because it does give you more information, and there's lots of other projects on there as well. Please share with your crafty friends and give me the thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Let me know. Give me the thumbs up, because if you don't give me the thumbs up, I don't know if you've enjoyed it. Maybe you haven't. Maybe it's not your cup of tea, isn't paper folding. Maybe you prefer something that's a little bit quick and easy rather than lots of preparation. I like both, personally. I would also like to thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next time.